Should you wear shoes when you work out, or should you go barefoot? What's the science say? I'm Deborah Atkinson, and you're listening to Flipping 50, where I address your top questions and concerns, and I share what to eat, how to move, and how to change your mindset so you can get the energy and the vitality that you want, need, and deserve in this second and better half. And today I'm tackling a reader question. And this question may seem like an odd one, especially for those of you who have foot issues. You may already be shouting, no, 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 or yes, yes, yes. But the question came up because a subscriber saw me doing a rebounder workout, just doing a short demonstration of what it looks like if I'm going to try to get my heart rate up and do intervals on a rebounder. And I'll link in the show notes to my JumpSport Rebounder and why I have one. But I was wearing shoes. And a lot of people who do rebounding do so barefoot. So they asked, well, should I wear shoes or not? Because I made them question which would be appropriate. So I want to answer this question, but then I want to go down the line and answer it in several other areas. Pool exercise, for instance, yoga, Pilates, weight training, and walking and running. So let's hit them all. And the basis for my answer will be very similar. So each of these will take a lot less time, but let's start with rebounding. So number one of the first things that I noticed when I joined a group for rebounders on Facebook was that a lot of newbies were asking questions about why their feet hurt after rebounding. And not a lot of people in the group, because I think this is just an enthusiast group. Nobody inside is an expert, and I kind of feel like I'm lurking, being there myself. And there are some things drive me crazy, so I may not be able to stay. But no one really knew the answer to that. So the answer is we've spent so much time in shoes that when we go barefoot, our foot has to work a lot harder. And if you go barefoot and you're putting your foot on an unstable surface, you're requiring it to do far more than it has to if you were, say, just walking across your bedroom floor from bed to the bathroom or into the kitchen to get that first cup of coffee in the morning, and doing so barefoot. It's a lot more stress when your foot has to do the barefoot work plus stabilize. And that's what we're asking it to do when you're on a rebounder. You may, if you think back to Bosu, when Bosu in the gym, that dome-shaped, looks like a half of a ball on a base, became popular. If you remember using one, if you were on it in shoes even, that still was somewhat fatiguing, but you had at least a little platform in the stability from your shoe and the sole of your shoe to depend on. But even then, doing a half an hour class was a lot. So we gave you breaks. We didn't keep you on that dome. We brought you on it and off of it so that your body could adapt very slowly over time to spending more time on it. Well, the same thing is happening to your rebounding. And maybe as a kid jumping on a trampoline, you didn't notice this so much, but rebounding is a little different in two ways than jumping on a trampoline as a kid. So first of all, as a kid, you probably had to take your turn, right? There were 6 other kids around that trampoline, and you got a little bit of time, and then you had to get off and give it up. But you also exercised and jumped like a kid. So you jumped a little, you sat a little, you jumped a little, you sat a little, you rested, and you jumped some more. And you jumped on your knees, you jumped on your bum, you jumped on your feet. It wasn't always just feet, 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 straight ahead for 10 or 20 minutes. And that's probably what you're trying to do in rebounding, because we've all told you need to do 20 minutes of exercise. So rebounding is also different in that we're not bouncing off of the trampoline and bouncing up and up and up. We're bouncing down You're pushing. You're asking a lot more of your feet. Ideally, you're pressing through the heels, but it's a different kind of action and it's more work. So the rest of you, your quadriceps, your glutes, should also be working. But your feet are going to notice that there's a little bit more to this than just messing around, although it's fun. So if we go to pool exercise next, because as I do this, it is summertime, and some of us are more tempted, more inclined when it's triple digits in Scottsdale to get in the pool. So if you're on your feet, should you wear shoes in the pool? So I'm not a lover of those aqua shoes, the thin kind that don't offer a lot of support. But if I were going to do a lot of aerobic activity in a shallow kind of water swimming class where you're in the depth of navel to nipple and you're doing water jogging or running or water exercise with your feet coming in contact with the floor frequently during a class, then absolutely I would recommend the kind of water shoe that's like a tennis shoe. And you need the same support you do, even though we've removed some gravity from your impact. You still want some support, and especially if you have a history of plantar fasciitis. We don't know exactly what the connection is. We do think potentially there may be a connection between hormones and plantar fasciitis, or inflammation that happens to those tendons, in carpal tunnel and in tendonitis in the shoulder or the elbow, as well as your feet. But women in midlife are more prone to it. So we don't want to either cause it, but we definitely don't want to make it worse. So some of you, if you've got plantar fasciitis and you're listening, you're thinking, no way would I even think about doing that without my shoes on. And good for you, you shouldn't. But you might even want to think twice about doing it at all, and or starting with just a few minutes at a time to find out how you do. But in the pool, absolutely. If you're spending a lot of time doing it, if you're doing an isolated, just once in a very blue moon, you're doing some exercise classes, or you're doing deep water running where your feet actually never touch the bottom anyway, no worries. You can go barefoot. And of course, if you're swimming, you're going barefoot. The other reason you want to wear footwear in the pool would be if you're coming in contact with the bottom. A lot of bottom of pool surfaces are very textured, and that helps you occasionally if you're standing up once in a while. But if you're walking on it, it actually can work away the skin on the bottom of your feet. So shoes will protect you from a lot of different things. So in terms of Pilates and yoga, Pilates in mat work and in using reformers, the footwork part of the exercise in a reformer is meant to be done barefooted, or working in a facility where you share a reformer. We've always practiced socks because it's a little bit more hygienic and somebody isn't just sweating in their feet on cloth kind of tape. So socks or barefoot, if you're on your own equipment, fine. If you're doing mat work, you want to be barefoot, probably not in shoes anyway. But for yoga, it comes back to, do you have plantar fasciitis? And if you do, then potentially you may want to wear shoes and just know that not everything will work as smoothly for you, but that's okay. So you want to do what you can, keeping your feet flat. The other instance is, there may be yoga moves that bother you because of arthritis in the big toe or that big toe joint under it. Shoes are probably not going to protect you from that kind of pain. It's just you don't want to go into that extreme of a runner's lunge, for lack of a better description. And it's probably not for you, but shoes won't help. So shoes during yoga really are about what's most appropriate for your foot and what feels the best for you. With weight training and or with walking and running, there have been some chai running books, running barefoot books that have been popularized. And there's also been the Vibram 5-finger shoes, that are like being barefoot, but the next best thing to it, offering a little bit of support. I'm not a huge fan, especially for women in our age demographic and older. We wear shoes for a reason. They're very protective. Dropping a kettlebell on your foot, whether you have a shoe on or not, is going to hurt. So I'm not sure how much it protects you from things like that. But in terms of weight bearing, adding extra weight to what you're doing, and hygiene, if you're in a gym with other people at least, if you're at home and you're doing some one-legged exercises like a dumbbell deadlift or kettlebell deadlift, and you want to be barefoot to work a little bit more on balance and work on stabilization and strengthen the muscles in your foot, and you're in your own space, I'm all for that. So whether you're on hardwood floor or you're on carpet, either one of those would be appropriate in small bits. Just introduce your foot to it, because again, if you've been wearing shoes for most of your life, suddenly going barefoot, doing something you're not used to, is stress on the foot, the joints and the muscles in that foot. So adapt, allow yourself to adapt to it. That's when you're strength training. Walking and running. Walking is less impact. Running is higher impact. And if you've access to grass and you want to run across the grass, I just would caution against too much high impact activity on just bare feet. So if you've ever run across the sand, and I've had many a client come back from a vacation where they've said they've walked in the sand and now their plantar fasciitis flares. Most people who've got plantar fasciitis aren't inclined to do running on the beach, but if you've ever tried it, that's certainly not easy on the feet either. So you want to be trying new things very slowly and gradually, a few minutes at a time, to test how you feel afterward. But I'm always going to come back to the safety piece. So whether it's glass or other kinds of debris that you just can't foresee, I think that's something that I would always regret, being injured and unable to exercise at all, or in the ways that I enjoyed most, because of trying something new. So there's an appropriate time to go barefoot, and I think we all need to do it, but certain exercises are probably better than others. Certain times are better than others. If you want to work that foot, start by just working on balance activities, by doing yoga, balancing on one foot then the other, doing tree pose here and there, and practice doing things like towel gathers. So you take a dish towel, you'd put your toes on the end of the long end of one of it, and then scrunch that towel up under your toes until you got to the other end. Pull it back out and do it again, and do repeats of 3 or 4 times. That works the muscles underneath the arches, and you have multiple arches underneath your foot, whether you know that or not. Those are great ways to work on strengthening your foot muscles. But then otherwise, I would be careful and know yourself. So if you've ever had plantar fasciitis, you already know it's something you don't want to come back. And if you have it now, you want to be pain-free eventually, so don't do anything that's going to stress it. And otherwise, just observe caution, test yourself. So rebounders often are demonstrated barefoot. Just increase the time that you're going barefoot on your rebounder slowly over time, so that you adapt and you allow the muscles in your foot to get stronger and then take on more, just like you would the muscles in your chest or your back or your arms. There you have it. That's my feedback about, should you wear shoes when you work out, or should you go barefoot? The show notes are at flipping50.com/barefoot, and I'll put the links to the Stronger program and to the Flipping 50 Fitness Specialist program in those show notes. So what are you waiting for? Let's start Flipping 50 together.